The 6th New Jersey on July 2nd fought down in the area which is known today as the Valley of Death. It's an area right between the famous Little Round Top and an equally famous area called Devil's Den. Basically what happened was the Union Army was fighting defensively on July 2nd, trying to await Confederate assaults. And eventually that Confederate assault came against the Union left end or left flank on July 2nd near those two locations. And even though they're outnumbered, the 6th New Jersey had to make a counterattack down through the valley itself to try to buy time for the Union forces to shore up and bring in more reinforcements to solidify their line. And they just charged down the valley, literally crossing or their battle line being intersected by a small sluggish stream called Plum Run. And along the banks of that stream was very marshy. So they're making a counterattack against superior or Confederate forces that greatly outnumber them. They're charging through a marshy area. Some of the men said the mud came up to their ankles or knees. Their shoes are being sucked off. They're getting shot at. And yet, despite the odds, the counterattack was partially successful. It stayed temporarily that Confederate advance through that gap. And although it cost the 6th New Jersey heavily, in the end, by the time they were forced to retreat, it did buy the time the Union forces needed to bring in more reinforcements.
Well, I'm here at the site of where the 8th New Jersey fought. They fought all along here in the wheat field on the 2nd day of battle. An amazing story. The 8th New Jersey was under severe fire. There was no way they could win, so they were ordered to retreat. As they retreated through the woods, their colors or their flag got caught in the trees. Now the men couldn't get the flag out, and instead of leaving it and saving their own lives, they rallied around their flag and they turned and they fought and they met the enemy head on and were decimated at almost point blank range. So an incredible story about bravery and New Jersey's contribution to winning the Battle of Gettysburg in 1863.
The symbol of a regiment's pride and esprit de corps and sense of honor were the colors, the American flag and the state regimental flag. And the greatest disgrace that a regiment could suffer would be to lose its colors or to lose its flag. And the greatest honor that they could achieve would be to capture an enemy regiment's flag.
I think my favorite story that relates to New Jersey troops at Gettysburg has to do with Battery B of the 2nd New Jersey Artillery. It was commanded by Captain Judson Clark. Clark's battery belonged to the 3rd Corps, which was again the corps that was commanded by General Sickles. And when Sickles ordered his forward movement on the early afternoon of July 2nd, Clark's battery, of course, went with the 3rd Corps forward. And they were positioned right near the Peach Orchard area. Thus, when the fighting started, they found themselves really right in the middle of the fighting. The Peach Orchard is the area that Sickles really wanted to hold. That's the whole reason he moved his men forward, because it was higher ground. And they were greatly outnumbered by Confederate artillery. And so for over 2 hours, they stood there and fired off their 6 guns against numerous and overwhelming Confederate batteries. But Clark's battery was the one that was longest in action. It was so long in action that it lost numerous horses, so they had to bring up replacement horses from the rear.
The Confederates came so close to them that they started yelling at them, "Give us those guns, you Yankee sons of bitches." And some Irish kid from New York yelled back, "Come and get him." And so they eventually retreated. They brought their artillery pieces off the battlefield, and they shot the guns so much that the guns had to be junked afterwards. More rounds were fired by that battery at Gettysburg than I believe any other battery in the Civil War in a given battle.
When you look into your family history, you might find that you have relatives that fought in the Civil War. And if you do find this out, all you have to do is look at the regiment they joined, look at the dates they fought, and you can pay your respects to them by visiting the battlefields that they fought on. Now I did this and discovered that I have a 17-year-old cousin that joined in Trenton with the 11th New Jersey. His name was Joe Cheston. The 11th New Jersey ended up here at Gettysburg. And Gettysburg is so clearly marked that I can stand here on the spot that the 11th New Jersey fought on, and I can look out onto land that was my cousin's last sights because he died here on July 2nd. Now, my cousin wasn't the only member of the 11th that fought hard on the 2nd day's battle. As we find out, they have one of the most dramatic stories to tell. At about 4 p.m. July 2nd, the 11th New Jersey was commanded by Colonel Robert McAllister. In a letter, McAllister described part of the scene. "We were in front of the apple orchard at the Smith House along the Emmetsburg